you. Come on in. Welcome to the Scum Bar.
Welcome to the Scumbar Podcast Marvel Movie Marathon, where we go through the 22 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting with Iron Man donning his first suit and ending with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. We'll talk Iron Man, Captain America, another, and everything in between. I'm your host, Captain Mattbrush, and with me today is the silver-tongued man himself.
Anth0z.
It's so wet.
I realized afterwards, like, oh, he said silver, not like
Slippery. Oh, Anth0z, how you doing?
I'm doing.
Are you ready to go through yet another Marvel Movie Marathon episode where we talk about an MCU film?
Ready to go right through it, just all
right
the way through it. I actually just started streaming it, so I have like a separate window. I'm streaming the movie.
Oh, wow.
For some reason, I just decided to watch it. So while we talk about it, maybe it'll line up with what I'm watching.
Nice. It could. It could. That's probably a good idea, actually. Maybe I'll put a picture of Thor nearby or something like that so I can think about it.
Sure.
Warning to any of you listeners, the Scumbar Podcast will contain spoilers for this movie, which is Thor and the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you don't want to hear about Thanos or anybody else or the Infinity Gauntlet or anything like that, then stop listening now.
Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Watch all the movies, come back, and then you can, at your leisure, listen to these episodes. If you enjoy the Scumbar Podcast, please be sure to leave us a like or a subscribe or comment on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. This week, for our Marvel Movie Marathon, we're going to be talking about 2011's Thor, starring Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Natalie Portman, and Anthony Hopkins. This movie was directed by Professor Lockhart. Did you know that?
I probably didn't. What's his name in real life?
Oh my gosh, what's his name? Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
Professor Lockhart. Yeah, he's known for his Shakespearean acting as well as directing. I think it was like King Henry. He's already got experience as directing at this time when making this movie, and he's known for Shakespearean kind of stuff, which is funny because this movie has a bit of like kind of Shakespearean flair to it, with Thor and his family and all that.
And is it just me, or is that connected to what we see in Thor? Wait, is it Ragnarok? Which is the one where we come back and then Loki is pretending to be Odin?
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of like watching like a Shakespeare play, I guess.
I think that is Ragnarok. I'm not too sure, to be honest. Trying to rack my brain for Marvel knowledge, but I really don't. I think that's Ragnarok.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Anyways, Anth0z, without further ado, let's go over a brief synopsis of the movie.
Let's. Okay. I am going to expound the basic structure to Thor based on this.
It does say expound.
It says expound, yeah.
Whatever, just read whatever it says.
Okay. After wanting to wage war against the frost giants, the mighty warrior Thor is cast out from Asgard by his father Odin and sent down to Earth. With no way home and his hammer Mjolnir lost, Thor struggles to reclaim his powers. Meanwhile, on Asgard, Thor's devious brother Loki has seized the throne and seeks to help the frost giants reclaim their glory. With help from scientist Jane Foster and her team, Thor must learn the true virtue of being a hero and return home to stop Loki and save Asgard from destruction.
Bam, bam, bam.
How was that?
That was well done.
Cool, thank
really
you.
Well done. You've got a good voice for, what is it, voiceover?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Before going into this movie, I just wanted to mention I like to do a little bit of how I was feeling before going into the theater and all that with these movies, as much as I can remember back to 2011. 2011, Matt. For this movie, I specifically remember the poster, and it says like, he is the god of thunder. It would be like Thor, he is the god of thunder. Mm-hmm. It was like such a bold poster.
Yeah.
And I remember like it kind of was dumb, but you also loved it. So as like a guy, an impressionable young boy at that time, I guess I wasn't too young, but still, I was very into it. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be kind of cool. I'm kind of excited for this because it felt like the power of an MCU film but it had this like kind of lighthearted comedic tone to it, and the trailers seemed to be that way too. So I was getting really excited for this film before going into it.
I'm trying to look up a poster of this.
I believe it was He Is the God of Thunder.
I see the God of Thunder, and it's just his face.
That might have been it. Maybe it was just the God of Thunder.
Interesting.
Thor, God of Thunder.
What I thought was kind of weird was the way that he Okay, so there's another poster where it looks like he just landed from like a huge jump, and so he's kind of in this like one bended knee crouch position, and he's holding Mjolnir with one hand, but he's holding it so that the bottom of the handle is touching the ground, but the way that he lands, it looks like it's supposed to be as if he came down with the hammer to strike the ground, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I just noticed it yesterday when I looked at it. I'm like, that looks so strange that he's holding the hammer that way. Like, I get it for the poster. Like, they want to show what Mjolnir looks like, right? But
yeah.
But I think if you really look at the poster and what they're trying to show off, it looks so strange. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. That's weird.
Do you remember what it was like for you back when this movie was coming out in theaters?
Not really, but I was probably really excited. I didn't really know a lot about Thor up until that point, other than maybe seeing a little bit in comics and things, but my extent was like pretty minimal.
Yeah, me as well. I didn't know anything about Thor.
Yeah, so I think I was just excited to see what Thor was all about. Yeah, I think I was pretty blown away with like the world that they created, like what Asgard looks like, and just like how technologically advanced it was. It's almost like the outer space version of Wakanda.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's crazy to think about it now, because I feel like in the MCU there's a lot of defining moments where you go, oh, now it's getting weird, you know? Like, or you're like, oh, now it's about science, or now it's about magic or something, right? And you're like, oh, now it's like totally different. They've shifted the whole MCU. But I forgot that like all the way back here in Thor, we had such a fantasy movie that it was like a fully different world that radically shakes how we know the MCU as it is, right?
Yeah.
If you actually were to put Iron Man in this film, or I guess Bruce Banner for that matter, it's so different. Their worlds are just so weird. Like, Thor is in a completely different place. Like, if Iron Man was to learn about Asgard at this time, it would blow his mind.
Yeah, for sure. It's I actually have something I was going to mention, but I'll wait until later at the end of the episode.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yeah.
So, as always, we are going to break this movie into our 3-act structure. Now, we haven't talked beforehand about the 3 acts that we've chosen, so we'll kind of go and just figure it out as we are, and we'll break it down by these 3 acts and then go through it, and then we'll give final thoughts at the end of the episode. So, let's move into our Act 1, which I'm assuming you started at the beginning of the movie like I did.
Yes, I think I did. Pretty sure.
Okay, now, yep. I named my Act 1 Lord of the Realms.
I like it. Ooh,
just
nice.
Because it's very Lord of the Ringsy. It felt like such a Lord of the Rings kind of beginning to me, and I didn't remember all this backstory that they gave me, so I called it Lord of the Realms instead. What was your title?
That's so different. It's I, but spelled EYE, banish you.
Ooh, because he has one eye.
Because he has one eye. Yes.
Well done.
I banish you.
I've said this so many times, but I'm going to repeat it again anyways. To anybody who's interested in Norse mythology, and I'll probably keep harking back a little bit to like actual Norse mythology, the book by Neil Gaiman, Norse Mythology, is very, very good. Go and read it, or go and listen to the audiobook of it. I highly recommend it. It makes me love Norse mythology, and it also makes me love the Thor movies even more, because they don't do everything the same. Like, the Marvel Norse is a little bit different than regular Norse.
Yeah.
But there are some things that I'm shocked how much they keep. And we'll get into it as we go, but still, it's really good. So before I forget, go and read that book. If you haven't already, it's very good. I highly recommend it.
Actually, because you mentioned it last time, I downloaded it, so I've been listening to it, like the audiobook version of it. I may be like a quarter of the way. It's interesting. Like, because like the way they describe it is kind of like it's almost like fables. Right? They're not really telling, at least what I'm gathering from it, they're not really telling like one giant story, like in the way that you would watch Thor the movie, right? So
yeah.
But hearing these, listening to these different aspects of what happens to like each character, and some of the, I guess you'd say like the extended line of Odin, like hearing about what they go through, it's it's interesting. I like having that background. it's kind of more fun. I feel like I'm more complete when I watch Thor.
Yeah, I know it's weird because it's not the same. Like a very small difference is that Loki is not Thor's brother in the Norse mythology. Loki is more akin to being Odin's brother in Norse mythology, but it's a lot of things are similar. Like Loki and Thor have a really strong relationship throughout all of Norse mythology, just as they do in the MCU. So there's a lot of similarities there between the two. Plus, their characters are very similar to their archetypes. So that all plays out, and it works really well. But yeah, there's so much to Norse mythology that's just fantastic. But I could talk about that for days. Let's talk about Thor. We got a scene here to play.
The Jotuns must pay for what they have done.
They have paid with their lives. The destroyer did its work, the casket is safe, and all is well.
All is well? They broke into the weapons vault. If the Frost Giants have stolen even one of these relics...
They didn't.
Well, I want to know why.
I have a truce with Laufey, king of the Jotuns.
You just broke your truce. They know you are vulnerable.
What actions would you take?
March into Jotunheim as you once did. Teach them a lesson. Break their spirit so they would never dare try to cross our borders again.
You're thinking only as a warrior.
This was an act of war.
It was an act of but a few, doomed to fail.
Look how far they got.
We will find the breach in our defenses and it will be sealed.
As king of Asgard.
But you're not king. Not yet.
Nice. So I didn't realize that that Jotuns was spelled with a J. That's why I'm like, why don't I
Yeah,
know
it's
this
weird.
word?
I know, it's very weird, but I guess, I only know it's Y because they say Y in the movie, but I guess it's Jotunheim.
I'm like, I'm starting this off so
Maybe it's a
badly.
Swedish thing, I guess, Norwegian thing. I'm not really too
Norwegian,
sure.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, probably Norwegian. Anyways, let's start into Act 1 here. So we get a nice little prequel on everything going on between the realms and the world tree and all that. It's tied up kind of nicely to give you the bad guys being the Frost Giants and the good guys being everyone in Asgard. So obviously there's more nuance to it than that, but for the movie's sake, they like to just kind of have bad and good, so very good versus evil, Lord of the Rings style. I almost was expecting to hear Galadriel do the whole, for none now live who remember. It was very like what they found the one power of the Frost Giants, like the ring kind of thing, but it was a chest, and then they stole it and took it back to their little place. But anyways, I did like that backstory though. I thought it was kind of nice.
I think the backstory is good. It's just I think thinking about it this time around, watching it, since they opened the whole movie with like Jane Foster and them like doing the research and stuff, right? I think because of that, I mean, I guess they kind of need to set up for later on that obviously, if we're starting off with these humans, then they're going to have some sort of impact later on.
You're not going to be in Asgard the whole time. I think that's the only reason why they started with Jane first and then went into the backstory.
Yeah. And so it's important for setting up those relationships, and then I mean we're gonna get more from those characters later on, and I guess because of that maybe it was more worth it for them to start off a scene with them, but I think I would have been happier if we started off like somewhere on Asgard or something to do with with Thor or like Odin, whether it is like during the past or in the present. I think because I think maybe when I watched this in theaters, that because it started off on Earth, I was like, wait, what? Like, are they gonna make Thor all of a sudden be this like human who gets powers, like like a Shazam kind of origin?
Yeah.
And so that, I think it threw me off, which I mean it's not bad per se, but it is something that I just thought like, oh, I might have liked it the other way more.
I have a strong suspicion that the test audiences were confused from the beginning of the movie, not exactly knowing what they were watching, and maybe it took a little while before they grasped to the characters. So I have a feeling they decided to make it more grounded in reality for a couple minutes there before you then go into the whole Norse mythos.
Right.
That being said, I do like the backstory, and then I love how it transitions to Odin then teaching his children, Loki and Thor. I love how you just see them as kids, and their archetypes are playing out right away. Where you have Thor, who's like rip roaring, ready to go, and then Loki, who's a little bit more timid and kind of watching what he says a little bit better. I love that you see it from the get-go. It's really well done. Yeah,
I think what I like about the like what they established with that, and I think it's used in Odin's words. And I didn't take note of what he says, but he does talk to them as if they are both like truly his sons. Like it's not something that the audience questions, other than the fact that you see like one's pretty much blonde and one is completely dark haired, right? So that's kind of like, I think it's meant to be a very dead giveaway that one's not
Loki
like the
is
other,
different, yeah.
but otherwise, like, to Odin, like, that's not what matters. Like, to them or to him, they are both his sons, and that's something that is important for his character for like the rest of the movie as well.
Which really makes you understand Loki, who I don't even necessarily see as the villain to this film. It's very interesting, but like Loki is such a complex villain that he will stay with you throughout a film, and you still just don't exactly know what he's thinking, and that's like the best way to do Loki, pretty much. You're kind of watching him, and you understand all of his actions, from his questionable birth and lineage raising up to like what his purpose is in life, right? So you're kind of with him the whole time, and you're kind of confused like what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing. So it's interesting to watch him go throughout this whole movie, because he's not that villainous. He just has the wrong intentions based on how he was raised, I would say.
Yeah, or he has
it's almost nature versus nurture, I guess.
Yeah, I like the way you put it, that that the audience is confused along with him. Like, that makes a lot of sense, because he's supposed to be the one who is like very witty and very smart, and like specifically in comparison to Thor, who's like all brawn. Like, Loki is the brain. And so for him to be confused about like what's going on, I think it's good if the audience can feel that and feel confused with him, because then like you said, like, he's not the most like supervillain kind of like archetypal character in this movie. Like, we have potentially like a couple different villains, and and I guess in a way it's, to me, it's almost like a double-edged sword. Like, it's kind of good that he is not necessarily the main villain, because it almost seems like it would be too cliche, like the misunderstood adopted brother kind of thing. But then at the same time, we have these other there's the other affiliation, so like the Frost Giants, who are also like his origin, like that. That's a nice connection there for the audience to start thinking like, oh, then that's why he's evil, even though he's really not, like, just because of that one connection. But it's the for me, the kind of like annoying aspect to that was that I never felt throughout this movie that there was one almost like one main character or entity that Thor had to use to propel himself to be better, if that makes sense.
Actually, that's interesting, yes, because while I would say Thor is the protagonist and Loki is the antagonist, I would say neither Loki nor Thor are the villain. They both make their characters progress, being the protagonist and antagonist, right? They both are the reason to push the other character to progress and get further. But Thor's motivations also come from his own lack of judgment, right? Like, a lot of what he's doing to get better is based on everything he's missing, you know? Like, he has to learn through his own issues to become a better person. It's kind of interesting. Like, we'll go through it, but it's the whole movie is just like the hero sacrifice plot.
Exactly.
As the whole time goes. But we also have this interesting Shakespearean father and, like you said, outcast brother and brother plot that is also really compelling. So there's two completely separate compelling stories that are going in tandem, and I don't know, for me it works really well, but it is a little bit of a mess. It's kind of just like a blender of two really good strong ideas kind of put together to make one movie. But it works really well, I think. I don't know why, but it hits me hard because I have a brother, I guess, also, but I love father-son movies. But also just with the brother relationship, I see myself in Loki and I see my brother in Thor, so I really connect to a lot of the stuff happening there, which I really enjoy.
Okay, that's good.
So when we see them as young kids, we already get their archetypes as they come out, and then we go right into really kind of meeting Thor to his adult form when he's going to his crowning to become king. It's kind of a fun time. Everyone's all celebrating Thor becoming king. He's throwing his hammer up in the air. He's really boasting about it, and he's having a lot of fun, and we get to kind of meet what Thor is like right away, and I feel as if they're trying to throw a bit of Tony Stark at us here. He's really like cocky and full of himself. You know, it's very Tony Stark-esque. And it's kind of the Thor I like too. I feel like we miss this Thor a little bit later on. We kind of lose this kind of Thor, not in this movie, but I mean in the other movies. And I like this Thor. He's really confident and full of himself, and but just like he seems strong. He seems really headstrong in this first scene here. I really do like that.
It's funny that his confidence, I guess, to mirror what we're getting from Tony Stark, that his confidence stems from his brute strength. But then Tony Stark's confidence stems from the fact that it's not even just that he's rich. I think rich is kind of just like, it's a bonus just to the fact that he is like super smart. Like he can just make anything work, right? Brute intelligence, yeah. So that's an interesting point that you make.
I mean, the scene goes by and we get the Frost Giants attack coming in, and I did remember the twist from even when I saw this in theaters. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but I remember the twist already, so I already understood what was going on.
Yeah.
Frost Giants come in, they get destroyed, and then Odin has a quick talk with Loki and Thor, and we get that awesome scene which we recreated where Odin then tells Thor that he's not king yet, even though he's trying to make kingly decisions. So we have Thor already jumping the gun and making some immature decisions, which is interesting and works with the stereotype quite well. What's really interesting is how they handle Loki throughout all of this. He's very timid and shy and in the background a lot, not saying much. And I think if you see Loki not saying much, it's either a really good thing or a really bad thing, right? You don't know what that is. So the camera was really good about it too. They would cut to him on specific lines to show you how he's emoting. And if you know that he's lying, you know that his emotes are all really well crafted at that time. So it's pretty smart.
Yeah, I like that they pretty much put Loki into the back of just about every single scene.
Yes.
Because knowing that he's the one that becomes kind of like the puppeteer behind manipulating Thor to go to Jotunheim and like take down the Frost Giants, that Loki's there before that, during it, after. It's all a part of his own plan that he's scheming, but you just can't tell because he's in the background. But that's how he works the best, I guess, like behind the scenes.
That's a good point. And even with staging of Loki, they've got him in the very next scene. Loki and Thor have that talk, and Loki convinces him in an odd way to then go and attack the Frost Giants. But before that, he actually comes out from behind a post, and he just kind of walks from behind a pole, but the camera only shows the feet of somebody coming out from behind the pole behind Thor, right? So it's like he was hiding almost behind this pole. And if you know Loki's character, you instantly know it's Loki right away. You're like, it has to be, because it's like he's sneaking around, almost like you said, the puppeteering kind of thing. He's just always there in the background. He just is a part of the scenery and comes right out and then sits next to Thor. So I really like how they do that. That's very smart, and it makes it feel like he just has so many fingers and so many different pies. It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then Loki and Thor do their whole planning to attack the Frost Giants and all that. Like I said, Loki manipulates Thor. It's pretty smart how he does it with the wording. He says, "There's no way you can do this without defying Father." Yeah,
testing his confidence and his ego.
And Thor instantly stands up, and Loki's like, "No." But really, he's like, "Yes." So that's really smart. We've got Sif and the Warriors 3. I could not tell you their names. Unfortunately, I forget these characters.
One is Prince Charming from the TV show Once Upon a Time.
Okay.
One is he's got like a Japanese name too, and he's got a Japanese.
There's Jackie
accent.
Chan, Xena, and whatever.
And Robin Hood. Robin Hood. That's what they call them. Yeah.
So I like these the Sif and the Warriors 3. I kind of wish they were in the movies a little bit more. I feel like they get the shaft later on.
But they totally do. Yeah.
Yeah, they're totally like Thor's best friends, which is kind of fun. And unfortunately, we miss out on them.
Yeah, it would make I think it would make a lot more sense if we got some more background on them as to why they are so, like, how did they get to this. We don't need to get the whole origin of how they got to that point, being so close to Thor, but I think giving us a little bit more time to show like why they're so tight, or just how they're so tight. I think we just have to assume like, okay, they're tight for whatever reason. They'll do whatever, they'll sacrifice themselves for each other, and I guess we'll just take it as is.
They're fairly two-dimensional characters, and I'll agree with that for sure. But I feel like there was potential to do more with that, especially if they wanted to do a love triangle between Sif and Jane later on in a secondary movie or a third movie, with Sif having the Asgard background and Jane having the Earth background. That would be an interesting way to pull Thor in two different directions. And I think, especially since Natalie Portman didn't really work out for the Thor universe that they kind of wanted to build there, it actually would have been really nice to throw Sif in there as the other love interest. So it felt like they were kind of going that way with this movie, so it would have been nice to keep that going for the other movies.
Yeah, it's weird because they did kind of hint, or they showed like subtle motions of Sif, like, having some sort of emotional attachment to Thor and kind of wanting there to be something, but I guess being a honorable person and not acting on it, knowing that Thor. I mean, later on we have this. There's like that dinner thing, and event. Well, I guess it's towards the very end, but
Right.
she doesn't act on anything. She just understands that he loves this other earthly person.
Yeah.
And
like you can take that a few different ways. Like I take it as in a romance kind of way, just because it is a man and a woman. But it could just be that she's the one that understands him better than anybody else. So it could be more in a friendly way. They never actually did say it, but I definitely went the romantic route, and I think that would have been smart to steer more into that for the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, we don't, and then we don't really see much more of them. But they get to go and they fight the Frost Giants, and we get to see a whole battle, really muddy battle. It was hard to see what was going on.
A little
it's quite
bit
dark.
Yeah.
They kind of gave like the one Asian dude the spike ball, the other guy the rapier, the big guy. What does he have? I don't even know his weapon.
He didn't have an axe, did he?
I don't even know because it was hard to see. Like I'm watching this, and I had the brightness all the way up on the TV, and I had the blind shut, and I was just like, this is really hard to make out.
I guess
it wasn't bad. It's just it was early stage CGI, unfortunately, 2011 CGI, and it was very muddy. So
yeah, I guess that bigger guy, he's kind of like the oaf of the of the troop, right? Like he's
the bomber.
He's because they showed maybe like a 2-second scene of each of the characters of like the Warriors 3 and Sif. Like using their weapons or like pretty much being on top of the Frost Giants, and then the first instance we see of that guy, like he gets hit a couple times.
Just hit, right away.
I think he probably recovers at some point, but
yeah.
I think it could have been really fun to see this fight take place a little bit later on, if we had a little bit more build up to just Loki's manipulation of Thor, because I found that this fight, like, it didn't feel like anything was riding on it, and I guess that's the point. But I have this kind of, I'm pulled back and forth between like, who do I want to see, like where do I want to see more of this like climactic fight? Do I want to see between Thor and the Frost Giants or Thor and Loki? And I would say, well, Thor and the Frost Giants. Like, to me, that just seems so much more fun to watch Thor kind of like break loose on them.
Yes. I mean, I like to see Thor beat up stuff because Loki put it in the way of Thor. I think it's how it should be. Yeah. And I like to see Thor and Loki argue over over political debate or their family disputes and quabbles. I love that stuff. I could see that for an hour, and it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't think them fighting is necessary. I don't think they need to fight. And I think this movie is actually pretty smart about that. They don't really have them fight all that much.
Yeah.
That being said, too, just before they actually go down there, I forgot to mention the Bifrost and the Rainbow Bridge and Heimdall. And Heimdall's amazing in this movie, by the way. Just, like, hands down, one of the best characters in the MCU in general. Heimdall's just so cool. Yeah. I love him.
Yeah, and, that's pretty much what I wrote in my notes. Heimdall - cool guy.
Want to hang out with Heimdall. When Loki says, like, I'll handle this, and he's talking to the Warriors 3, Sif, and Thor, and then he goes up to Heimdall. Heimdall's line is so good. He says, I wish I could remember it, unfortunately, but he says something about, like, it's going to be cold, like, you'll need a coat or something like that, or he's like, you should be wearing a coat for traveling to places that cold. And it's implied that he's talking about where they're about to go, as if he knows that they're about to go there. But what he's actually doing is he's questioning if Loki has already gone to the Frost Giants and is the one bringing the Frost Giants into Asgard. So Heimdall's already on it. Like, the way he's asking him, he's watching him, because he says, not once has anybody ever got around my watch.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I want to know who it was. But he also questioned Loki immediately. And if you think about it, Loki wanted to talk to him first. He says, let me handle this.
Yeah.
But it seems very much like Loki's already on guard, because he's like, what if Heimdall's already found me out? I'm not too sure. And he's like instantly trying to negate this thing, and Heimdall just digs right into it too. Like, you're going to need a coat for that. It's really interesting. I feel like Heimdall's onto him right away the first time he meets him. Or in this movie, at least. I just really like that meeting in those lines.
Mm-hmm. I think it probably makes sense for him to have that kind of foresight, because maybe it's not really explained, but I think it's implied that Heimdall pretty much has the vision to really see like everything, right? Like,
yes.
From the Bifrost, from like the bridge, he can spot Thor like wherever he is. He can spot Loki, other than when he said Loki was masked. So
obviously Loki has some kind of way to disguise himself, but Loki is the god of mischief, so it would make sense.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's cool that we have this character who can literally see everything, because that's something that can be leveraged in one way, but also with his crux of having to only serve like the true ruler, and always have like staying at his post. It's such an interesting position.
I mean, I love that he's just the guardian, the watcher overall. I love that. It's a very interesting poetic kind of role in the movies, and I wish they used him a little bit more in the whole MCU. It would have been very interesting. But still, overall, he's just a really cool character, and I love that.
And he looks like Goldar from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Oh yeah, he kind of does.
I think it looks cool though. I like it. Yeah.
I love how his helmet kind of makes the look of the Bifrost cannon thing. It like kind of looks the same. It does that same kind of like arc up. So they have that one shot where it's like him turning, and then like the cannon's kind of turning, and they both like have like they kind of like look the same as they come in. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Anyway, so there's the whole Siege of the Frost Giants. There's, CGI battle. Thor shows off all his powers of the movie, so we understand how cool Thor can be, which we don't really see many of those powers again in the rest of the movie. He destroys the giant creature that was scaring everybody, and then boom, war has struck. For some reason, now when the ice guys are all running at him at the end of the movie, at the end of the battle, after he's already taken out so many, this is now threatening. I don't really understand it, but it's like he's with his friends, and now they start coming in a wave, and he's like, oh no, what do I do? Even though he just took out so many of them earlier, so it's kind of weird, but I get it. It's fine. They had to end the war, or fight, I guess, but with a threat.
It is kind of strange. So that giant like orc dog thing that was chasing them for a while. Yeah, like there's that point where Thor uses Mjolnir and just goes like straight through that thing's like mouth and like throat and like out the back of his head, and then Thor lands in front of it. So like a lot of that doesn't make sense because
I was wondering that. It's like, how does he fly that way?
Yeah, but it's not even just that. It's not the okay. So from what I understand, Thor can't fly, and he gets propelled by Mjolnir.
He uses the momentum of the hammer.
He uses the momentum. Yeah, that's why you see him like when he's swinging it. When he throws his arm, like he doesn't release Mjolnir, so he goes with it. He gets momentum from that, and so he would go flying through that beast's mouth because of that. But he should go like way past, and that means he would have to jump backwards in order to land in front of him. But he's facing the monster, so that means he'd have to jump backwards and then turn around to land facing the way he did in the movie. And
what you didn't know is there was a cliff face on the other side, and he wall jumped off of that cliff face. You didn't see that; it was off camera.
Yeah. So it's I'm trying not to bring attention to just like something as small as this. I'm trying to allude to the fact that I don't think they do a good job of establishing whether or not he should be able to fly, or if he should be propelled by Mjolnir, because later on he even says when he's trying to get back Mjolnir, when he's with Jane and they're scoping out the site where S.H.I.E.L.D. has everything on lockdown, and then she asks him, how are you going to get out, and he said, I'll fly. But no, he doesn't fly. So why are you saying that he's going to fly? Like it's kind of weird. Right?
That's a really good point, and you're right. I guess the movie doesn't definitely say yes or no. I would have came out of this movie saying yes, he can fly. I didn't even think about the fact that he technically can't.
Well, see, yeah, that's the thing. Like, it seems like they seem to make him fly, but then I think in later movies it seems more established that he doesn't actually fly. Anyway, that's just an interesting ranting
point, though. I'm glad you said it because I didn't think about it. So,
yeah, well, you're welcome.
Thank you. So once the battle is over, the king then declares war. Doesn't really care. Odin comes to save the day, and the king doesn't really care what Odin has to say. He says, your son has declared war, blah, blah, blah. War has been declared, and we're going to have war. Odin comes down on the 8-legged horse. Did you notice that?
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I didn't even notice until I watched this movie, and I was like, whoa, he's on the 8-legged horse. So that's actually from Norse mythology right there. It's actually one of it's one of Loki's sons. It's from one of the more famous stories in Norse mythology, and it is covered in the Neil Gaiman book, and it's really interesting. But there is an 8-legged horse in Norse mythology, and it's just bred out of this crazy disaster that happens to the gods. So, anyways, really cool. The movie actually pays attention to it, and Odin rides the 8-legged horse in the movie. So
that's cool. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, so then we get to probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie, which is Odin banishing Thor. And it's quite good. You even have Loki, who, I mean, it's established that this is what he wanted all along.
Yeah.
but he's doing it so well to the point where you believe him when he's like, no, father, don't. Like, it's pretty interesting. I don't know, it's this really interesting family dynamic, and the only other time we get close to this again is at the end of the movie. But really, just these three together are just all-star acting this scene out, and I love the moment when he's making his speech and he's removing Thor from all of his titles and ripping off his pauldrons and whatnot, and suddenly Loki's like, father, and then he just like growls at him. He's just like, "Rah!"
Hey! Yeah. Yeah.
I just love that. It seems very Shakespearean to me, and I really just enjoy those moments. And then just the banish, he's just like, he's so intense about it. It's like, boom, like, and he's just gone.
Just gone.
But then just to top it all off, just like whoever holds like the power of Thor can wield this hammer or whatever, and just like throws it. I'm just like, oh, that's genius, you know? You've established so much to this movie, and you've like built up this whole thing about how awesome Thor can be, and then you said it's not all about your strength, it's more about like your character, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just so good. That's what everybody wants to know about a hero. They want a true hero, somebody who's also strong, but only uses it when they have to, not just because they can. And it's just brilliant. That's what makes comic books awesome. And I just love that moment. And he banishes Thor, and then boom, you just like move it right there. Like, I know it was a long time, and it wouldn't really make sense, but that's like title shot for me. Thor. Like, that's where he started. Like, it's just so good. Great moment. And that's actually where I end Act 1. I don't know about you, but that was my ending to Act 1.
Where did I end mine? A little bit later, actually. Not too much far after.
That's all good. We can move on.
Sure. Let's see. I think I made like a couple just sort of random notes because I just thought it was interesting that throughout this whole first act, Thor just tends to growl a lot.
Oh yeah.
And they're not very like really scary, like deep roaring kind of growls. They're kind of like, they're more like treble. They're more high pitched, right? And kind of. And so like, so I find it a little funny that they like. I guess that they don't really need to make it more like warish, but it's interesting seeing the like a big bulky man who kind of talks with a deep voice, but when he growls, it gets a little bit more like cat-like. And then some random tidbits about how when they find Mjolnir on the dirt.
Oh yeah.
In New Mexico, that it's on like a little pillar of dirt and sand and turf or whatever. And everybody's just trying to pull the hammer, but nobody bothers to try to like remove the dirt.
Break
below
the dirt.
It.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. I was like, just kick the dirt pile, like. But I wonder if, like, I kind of figured that. I was like, maybe there's, like, an aura of, like, the hammer around that dirt as well, since that dirt stays intact. I was like, I feel like the power kind of, like, sinks into the dirt a little bit. Maybe it goes all the way down. I'm not too sure.
I guess so, yeah.
So now that we're talking about that scene, I love that scene, actually, with everybody trying to pull out the hammer. I really think that's smart. It's very King Arthur. It's very Sword in the Stone, kind of bringing that to be. It's the axe in the dirt, and the townspeople come to try to pull it out. And they just did it in a modern telling, and I just really enjoyed that. I feel like that was... I don't know who wrote that. I don't know if that was Kenneth Branagh, or if that was the screenwriter, or if that was Kevin Feige. But whoever came up with that, genius. It was very smart, and I love that kind of allegory. And you have to be worthy to be able to pull the sword from the stone. And it's a good way to tell a story, and it was fun. And then we also got a Stan Lee cameo out of the whole thing, so that was cool.
Yeah. I am not quite sure why I did put my Act 2 there, but reflecting now, it makes more sense for Act 2 to end as soon as he's banished.
Oh, that's fine. I kind of went back and forth on my Act 1 and Act 2 spots, but it's mostly after watching the movie, I kind of just defined these three specific moments for the three acts of the movie. So that my first one was more just like Thor before he was banished, because the banishment is just like as soon as he's banished, he's now on a downward spiral.
Yeah, literally. So, he's literally spiraling downwards towards Earth.
Right.
Yeah.
He is. So that's where I ended it. So why don't we end it there, and we'll move on to Act 2 then.
Yeah, sure.
So Act 2, I have this when Thor lands on Earth, but obviously we can go a little bit further if you'd like. I actually forgot all about putting that whole scene in with the finding the hammer, but that's fine. Let's just leave it there. So we'll go into Act 2 here. I made mine, and I called it Tarzan Meets Jane.
Nice.
What did you call yours?
The Search for Meow Meow.
Meow Meow. What's Meow Meow?
It's like
funny.
I didn't look it up, but that is how she pronounces it, right? She calls it
she
Meow
does.
Meow?
She calls it Meow Meow.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, I like it.
Loki, what are you doing here?
I had to see you.
What's happened? Tell me, is it Jotunheim? Let me explain to Father.
Father is dead.
What?
Your banishment, the threat of a new war, it was too much for him to bear. You mustn't blame yourself. I know that you loved him. I tried to tell him so, but he wouldn't listen. It was so cruel to put the hammer within your reach, knowing that you could never lift it. The burden of the throne has fallen to me now.
Can I come home?
The truce with Jotunheim is conditional upon your exile.
Yes, but couldn't we find a way?
And Mother has forbidden your return. This is goodbye, brother. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Thank you for coming here.
Farewell.
Goodbye.
Aww.
Oh.
It's
What
such a weird scene. I honestly thought
manipulative
Loki... The only thing this scene is missing, because I don't mind this scene. I'm not trying to knock it, I'm just trying to improve it.
Yeah.
I just think this scene is missing one small line from Loki where he actually is compassionate. Because I feel like all these lines, they're all just bold-faced lies.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say them with much compassion in the movie. I just really wish there was a small moment of hesitation with him, just for a little bit, on something, on anything.
agree.
You know, I think that bit of emotion would have really humanized him more. But unfortunately, he's pretty cruel in this scene, and for just no reason, he's just totally cruel. I mean, he obviously loves his father, he loves his brother, and he loves his mother, and we see more of that later on in the MCU. But in this movie, in this scene, we really don't see it.
Mm-hmm. I almost think that if we get a little bit of that passion, it might even help with the audience being able to believe why Thor would be so convinced that what he's saying is true. And yeah, right. So and then it would be nice to get a little bit more of that now, because otherwise we really only get it once, like at the end of the movie.
I know.
So yeah.
That's quite brutal. But anyways, so with this act, I'll start here. I went with Jane and the crew meeting Thor when they hit him with the car and they pick him up and they think he's a homeless drunk.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty funny. I love where she's like, does he need CPR? Because I can definitely do CPR.
Yeah. That's pretty much all Darcy is for this movie, right? She's just
pretty funny in this movie. I forgot about that. She's pretty funny.
Yeah, she does a good job.
And Jane's also not that bad either. Like, I didn't remember her all that much when I was thinking back on this movie, but she's pretty good. She's got some funny lines throughout the movie, so... all in all, the Earth stuff is not really the memorable stuff for me in Thor. Like, it's actually not really my favorite stuff, is what happens on Earth. But there's good moments throughout it. They're sprinkled in. But you'll find I have less notes about Earth just because it kind of just feels like padded movie for me when they're on Earth meeting people. But I like the Asgard stuff a lot more.
Well, of course. I mean, you go to watch a movie called Thor. You expect to see it happening around like Thor's homeworld, right? And less so about like ours. So it's kind of annoying. Honestly.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to see this small town in like Albuquerque or wherever they are, New Mexico or something. I'm not really too sure where they are, but I don't really care too much about the small town. I don't really care too much about the people. I'm interested once we get Eric, because it seems as if Eric has some kind of tie into Bruce Banner. I feel like, because he says that he has a friend who is in gamma radiation who is off the grid now. So I assume he's talking about Bruce Banner.
I actually wasn't sure if he was talking about Bruce Banner or somebody he knew from, like something from like the Captain America days.
Oh, could have been.
Because he said something like, then S.H.I.E.L.D. got a hold of him and then he was like never seen again or whatever. So
that's why I thought it was Bruce Banner though, because I feel like that was a bit of what we saw in The Incredible Hulk, right? Like he was off the grid. He could, like, after everything that happened to him, he was like, boom, he was gone. So I thought that was maybe Bruce Banner, but I'm not sure. It could have been somebody else, but that's kind of the point. That's why I like Eric, because he does tie us into some more stuff I care about. Now, the other people are not as interesting. I'll admit that S.H.I.E.L.D. is pretty fun, just because you get to see a lot more of Agent Coulson and S.H.I.E.L.D. in this movie, which can be kind of cool.
Yeah. Son of Cole.
Yeah, I like that.
It's those little lines that makes me realize that Thor, pretty much throughout the whole series, like Thor is... for some reason, Thor is just like the funny movie.
Oh yeah,
right. I never really thought about it until watching this over
again.
Well,
it's very fish out of water, right? Like he's out of his element. He doesn't really know what's going on. Yet there's subtleties where he does understand stuff about Earth, right? When he just kind of smiles because he does understand, but he doesn't understand the lingo, maybe, right? Like he'll like I don't know what that word means, but he knows like people. He knows character, and he starts to understand that kind of stuff as he's on Earth. So I think that stuff's pretty fun too. Mm-hmm. So I love the hospital scene where you get to see all the stuntmen that he's throwing around the hospital scene.
Yeah.
There's all these people that look like they're just kind of doctors and nurses, but really they're like jacked up guys that are like, all right, throw me across the room. Come on, do it, do it.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I do love how he's like, you're messing with the mighty Thor.
Mighty Thor. Yeah, I was gonna make a note that that I think it's like in the span of 2 minutes he gets knocked out like 4 times.
I know.
But I don't mean it's not that it happens like in movie time, but in the way in audience time wise, like when we watch it happen, because the first time he gets knocked out by the truck, and then as he wakes up they're kind of scared and they don't know what to do, so Darcy tases him. And then this hospital scene where they're trying to hold him down and they
hit him with another dose,
like a sedative. Gets knocked out, and then one more time shortly after that, the truck backs up into him and knocks him out.
That one's funny, but honestly a little bit played out. Like, he's barely hit with the car and he's knocked out. It's so weird. Like, I know it's definitely funny because you're not expecting it, but it's just like they're kind of like they back up. They're doing like what? 2 miles per hour and they hit him, and apparently that knocks out this big guy. I was like, oh my gosh. But still, I mean, it is very funny, so I enjoyed it. But yeah, so a lot of just kind of like these funny little antics. I do like breakfast, where they go get breakfast and he says
breakfast.
Another, and he
Yes, smashes the glass.
This is good. Another.
I meant no disrespect.
I feel like a man who's never had coffee before, who's used to having beer and wine and whatever else they drink. I feel like him having coffee, I feel like he'd be like disgusted. Like, I'm shocked that he enjoyed coffee, on his first go around. Like pancakes, sure, that makes sense. Bacon, of course, but coffee, I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah,
that's true. It's kind of like the opposite of what you'd like the opposite flavor, the opposite effect, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's
very bitter. I didn't think that that's something that he would enjoy, but hey, he likes coffee, so get the man another coffee.
Maybe it was full of sugar and cream.
Yeah, maybe. I do love the bravado and confidence that Thor has in these scenes when he doesn't know about not being able to get his hammer yet. When the other dude's like, hey, we were trying to get a hammer at this place and blah, blah, blah. And then he's just sort of like, where is it?
Oh, and like, he like smirks. He's like, aha.
Yeah. He's like, I know that thing, And then like he's just like, I will head 50 miles west from here. And he's just like, he's so cocky in these moments. It's great because it really adds to his later on revelation. This Thor that we meet compared to another breakfast scene later on is such a parallel, and it's really awesome to see. So here he's very cocky and very full of himself and ready to get that hammer and just go back, But later on at breakfast, we'll see a totally different Thor, and I just love these two moments, so I like to lock in that parallel there.
Yeah, actually, and on that note of parallels, so with him and Loki, what I'm liking now that you're making a dawn on me that when he gets up, like he hears about Mjolnir and then he just gets up
meow, meow.
and meow meow and starts just heading towards it. I like that he's just like he's not a man with a plan. He's just man on the go. Right? It's just like
exactly.
He doesn't think ahead. It's just okay, this is what I'm doing now. Oh no, okay, this is what I'm doing now. But with Loki, everything's like everything's 10 planned. Steps ahead, right?
Yeah.
And so I like
actually, that. It's funny. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but later on, when Jane gets her stuff stolen from S.H.I.E.L.D., as she finds out all her research and all her data has been stolen, so that's why she now is also going to help Thor to get back to his hammer, because she also wants her S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. Thor's technically putting her in danger by just going to go and get his hammer. Now, that's something that Thor would have never thought of. Just as he put his friends in danger earlier on in the movie, he's now putting Jane in danger without really thinking about it too much. Mm-hmm. So he's very, not like you said, he's not planning ahead on that moment. Just before that, there's a really good scene where Thor is trying to get a horse from a pet store.
Oh, yeah.
I love that moment. That's really funny. I want more of that. That's really good.
Definitely, yeah. And I think that, like, scenes like that would help to really set this apart. Like, if we had less scenes on Earth and more of those scenes were like moments like that where he's just using his like homeworld concept to apply it to what happens on Earth. But if we get more of that, I think that then it's more enjoyable to see what's happening on Earth as opposed to seeing humans try to figure out like what they need to do in order to keep contact with Thor, or like establish why these storms and geostorms are happening and things like that.
No, that's a really good point, and I never would have thought this is what I was going to say, but I think my fix for this movie, if I had to fix something, would be all here in this middle Act 2 here. I think I would have made it so that when he was banished, he's already tried his hammer and doesn't have the power of Thor anymore. It would have been good if in Asgard is where he couldn't lift the hammer anymore. Yeah. And like he looks at maybe his father, and he looks to Loki, and Loki's got a smirk or something like that, and he suddenly realizes he's powerless. Then he's banished to Earth. And I feel like you could have cut out a lot of the Earth stuff that way, and you would have just had this Thor learning like humans do on Earth and humbling himself, becoming more just a man who's now learning to be with the people, a lower race of people. And then he gets the hammer power back on Earth and then comes back to Asgard. I think that would have been a little bit better than this, where we've got a lot of scenes here of just Thor kind of like bumbling around, getting tased a bunch, like you said, and then eventually finding out that he doesn't have the power of Thor. Now, it's a really passionate moment where he doesn't have the power.
Yeah.
And he goes in there and he breaks into the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility and he fights all the guards and you get a lot of fight scenes and whatnot, which is kind of boring in my opinion because he's a human. I get it, but it's like we're just watching dudes fight right now. We're not actually watching a superhero movie. But when he tries to lift the hammer, that's a really good moment. But yeah, I feel like they could have sped that up a little bit better to get to that point.
Yeah.
But hey, we get our introduction to a new S.H.I.E.L.D. person. This is kind of trivia for this movie. I totally forgot. This is our introduction to Hawkeye. So we get to see Clint for the first time.
Yes. Yeah, I totally forgot about that too. And what was the line just before that? I think Coulson said something like, wait.
He said, "Get the bird back in his nest" or something.
Oh no, he said, "I need eyes up. I need eyes up high. Somebody with a gun." And so then, you see the wall with a bunch of guns, and like the hand reaches for it. Actually, no, going for the bow.
Go for the bow. Yeah. I wonder if comic book fans, that was the moment they already knew it was going to be Clint.
I think so.
I couldn't imagine being in the theater, like knowing comics so well, and then like seeing that moment, and he reaches up for the bow and being like, like I couldn't imagine that, but that would have been awesome.
I actually think I did. Thinking back, yeah, because
I didn't know Hawkeye at all.
I think because I like that scene in my memory. It was very, like, it was such a unique thing to see these guns and then all of a sudden go for a bow. And I think I'm pretty sure in my head I thought, there's only one person I can think of in the or in Marvel that would just go for a bow specifically. So I think at the time I thought about it, but then. Like I wasn't 100% sure, and then, but then as he was holding it with the arrow outstretched, I'm like, okay, that's definitely him. So
I like how he doesn't have many lines, but he's got enough lines and the right lines to make us like him already. So we don't really know him much. He's not really in this movie at all. But if you were to be like, hey, do you remember that one guy who was a sniper in the S.H.I.E.L.D. moment? You'd be like, oh yeah, he was funny. You know, you would at least have a positive outlook of this character. So they did that well. They slowly introduced you into a character who's going to come up later on in the Avengers movie, and they did that fairly well, I think.
Yeah.
I love how much he's kind of like an unsung hero. He's an interesting character that we'll see a lot more in the MCU here, and I've always kind of flip-flopped on him, but I kind of just like the outcome of where he goes in the rest of the MCU. So I do like how that plays out. He's a good character.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. infiltration thing and Thor and his hammer, other than they could have rushed it to get more to that point. I do like the emotional side of Thor when he's trying to get his hammer, but that's about all I have to say about that.
I was going to mention, so by now, we already see that Odin is in his sleep.
Right, the Odin sleep, which I don't know if that's Norse mythology or not. I've never heard of Odin sleep before.
I'm not really sure, but I think because I just found it interesting that they label things as like the Odin this, like Thor is Odinson, and then and Odin is in the Odin sleep. Like, what other Odin things are there? Like, Odin breakfast. It's just, I don't know. Like,
the Odin belch.
Right? Yeah. Hurry.
That's the Odin growl.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. They're kind of weird to reference, I guess, without having some sort of background as to why they would call it those. But anyway, small things. What was it? Oh, right. When he's so when Thor is actually trying to pull Meow Meow out, like, man, his muscles are huge.
Oh, I know, he's jacked.
His arms are like my legs.
I feel like they filmed that scene first when he was like as beefy as he could have been. Like, I feel like that was the first thing they filmed.
Possibly. And he must have done like a 20-minute workout just on his arms just before doing that too.
Yeah. No, he's big. They got the right casting for it. I think it's actually hilarious and works really well for the characters that Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth were both in the running to play Thor. And it came down to pretty much just those two. And then Tom Hiddleston got Loki, which is hilarious compared to this movie where they're both trying to be king. So it actually works really well. And I find Tom Hiddleston is actually looking quite buff in this movie compared to how he looks later on.
Yeah, he looks really skinny later on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the regular Tom Hiddleston we know is quite skinny, but he bulked up as well to be Thor, but it just didn't work out. But Chris Hemsworth is huge in this movie, so
yeah, and maybe that helps him to look a little bit more menacing.
Maybe,
in a sense, or maybe not menacing, but at least like equally or at some sort of equal level to Thor.
True.
Just being a little bit bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he is gigantic in that scene.
Oh,
and then he gets taken out.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized that. So we have a couple times where, I think it's Eric's character and how he talks about, like the concept of Thor was a myth. Like it was stories that he knew that he knew as a kid, which I kind of took that as MCU or like Marvel kind of paying homage to, the fact that Norse mythology. Like it didn't originate in the MCU, that it has its own mythos.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Yeah, so I like that they alluded to that, and then when they show, I think he's flipping through his book, he's trying to show what he knows about like the characters like Thor and Loki, and then they show that page of Loki, and there's like this serpent behind him.
Oh,
and
yes.
so I kind of feel like that should be. I mean, we already know that that Loki's manipulating stuff behind the scenes because he's already like he's lied to Thor, and I think we already know that he already have a meeting with the Frost Giants by now.
I believe so. Yeah, I'm a little bit mixed up on my timeline when it comes to all the other stuff on Asgard when it jumps back and forth. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I believe he has already talked to the Giants and he made that kind of not truce, but he made that kind of like deal with them.
Yeah. So anyway, I like that they had that instance of it because it was kind of a little bit more of an establishment like. So, by the way, Loki is the evil one in this movie. But
yes.
Even though he's not like truly evil, but he's the one that you have to watch out for.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I like it too. I think it's smart how they allude to that with that too. I like Eric's character throughout this movie and a lot of what he brings to it. After Thor gets arrested, it's Eric that comes to his rescue.
Oh, yeah.
It's Eric who plays the fatherly figure to Jane, which is really interesting. I like the idea of somebody being a father to somebody when they don't necessarily have a father figure in their lives.
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny how Eric then goes to Thor to be like, come on. And he says the guy's name. I can't even remember right now. Donald Blake, I think.
Yeah. Dr. Donald Blake.
Yeah, which I think is like Thor's alter ego or something in the comics when he's like playing a human on Earth. So that's supposed to be like a parallel, I believe.
That must be.
But
like that they wouldn't just pull out any random name. It must have some sort of meaning like that. So that makes sense.
It's weird watching this movie though, and watching Coulson just kind of let it go. But I feel like Coulson's trying to play the long game the whole time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But Coulson does sound so dumb in a little bit of it. He's just like, really? Like I don't know. It's just, I feel like they could have done that a little bit better where Coulson doesn't look like an idiot and Coulson looks smarter. I don't know. Something about his emotions or his lines could have been done better, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's kind of just Coulson's character, that he's always, he always plays it cool. Like, he doesn't really show that kind of emotion, and it's almost like that way you don't get a chance to see. Like that way you're surprised with later on what Coulson ends up doing, because
that's true.
Like we see Thor, like if we go back a little bit, when he finally gets to Meow Meow in the middle of that whole shield site. Yeah. Coulson is the one that decides to watch. Like rather than saying like, oh, he's like, no, I want to see open, this. Take it down. Yeah. Like no, like let's see what happens. Like like you said, like he's in it for the long game. So I think it's nice that way we get a little bit more. We get to be surprised by Coulson each time.
Yeah.
We kind of have these moments.
That's a good point.
And then, the conversation with him and Eric, that doesn't explain how he could tear through my whole team. Steroids! He's a fitness nut. This is such a funny response.
He's like a doctor, but he's like full on steroids. It's funny.
It's so genuine. I really like that scene.
I know. He's a funny actor. I like him. And both his sons went on to become really big actors as well. You got the two Skarsgårds. So Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise, and then is it Alexander Skarsgård, who he played Tarzan, funny enough, in the remade Tarzan film. But I liked him from Generation Kill, a really good HBO series on the Desert Storm War.
Didn't watch that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really good one. He plays a sniper named Iceman.
Ooh.
But yeah, anyways, just his sons are just great actors, and he's a good actor, and it just,
yeah,
it's good. Okay, so I like how they drink the bird boilers, the birdie boiler.
Oh, the boiler makers.
The boiler makers. That's it. Yeah, I've always wanted to drink one of those. I never drank one, but I would love to. Is it amaretto that they're putting in there, or is it whiskey, or what is it?
I'm gonna look it up right now because
Or is it just like rum or something? I have no idea.
Boiler. He does say boiler maker, right?
Yeah. Sorry, birdie boiler was in a BMX jump that we all used to go to as kids.
Let's see. 1 ounce bourbon or rye whiskey and beer.
Nice. That sounds good. I want to do that.
That's just like it's just like a whiskey bomb, right?
Yeah, I used to do the called them Irish car bombs. You have a pint of Guinness and you have a half shot of Jameson and Carolans or like Bailey's, and you just drop it in, pop it down, and then boom, down it, and
Nice.
that was fantastic. So pretty similar.
Cool.
Anyways, I like that scene. I like the drink, and I love that Thor has to bring him home.
Yeah.
I love how he's like, we drank, we fought, he made his ancestors proud.
That's great
That's such a
lines.
good line.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
And of course, Thor, like being somebody who probably just drinks all the time, like he doesn't seem drunk at all.
I
He is
know.
completely sober.
I also love the line, I don't think you're the god of thunder, but you should be.
But you ought to be. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And then we get a nice heartfelt moment with Jane and Thor outside.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's very Tarzan and Jane. I love how they talk together. It's very like, whoo, Jane. But I do like his explanation though of the science and your ancestors call it science, or call it magic, or whatever. And like where I come, it's one of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I do like the explanation and how he talks about the Bifrost and all that. It's really interesting.
And the whole tree, or what's it called?
The World Tree,
World tree. Yeah.
Yggdrasil.
Oh, is that what it's called? Idrisil?
I believe so. Yggdrasil, the World Tree.
Okay.
Um,
And when he draws it,
yeah,
it
it's
just
just
looks like what I remember watching it. Okay, in theaters, I thought this, and then watching it this time around too. As he was drawing it, I'm like, this looks like a terrible drawing. It's like if I were to like,
he's
if
the
I
god
were,
of thunder, not the god of art.
yeah, it kind of reminded me of like when like I did it in elementary school when you put your hand on a paper and you have to trace
Oh
your
yeah,
hand.
you trace it. Actually, you're right. It does look like
It looked like that, but it looks like you just could because you're supposed to like go along the edges of your fingers and your thumb so you can like you trace it directly, like you keep contact with the pen against your skin. But to me it almost looked like he was just like, let's just go around here, and there's an up and a down and an up, and it's just like all over the place, and that's
Jane,
what I thought.
if you trace your fingers, you can make a turkey.
yeah, gobble.
No, I do like that scene though. I think it's pretty endearing. I like that they fall asleep under the stars, and it's just a nice moment for the two of them. I remember seeing this movie in theaters and thinking they had really good chemistry, and I really liked them as a duo. I really shipped them. I was like, yeah, this is cool. But these days, like watching these movies now in this marathon thing, I'm actually still much more involved with like Pepper and Tony. I think they're still the best couple on screen by far.
Oh yeah.
Their chemistries are so good, and I didn't feel anything in that Incredible Hulk movie. And in this movie, I didn't feel it as much as I thought I would have. It's not like it's bad. It's just not really popping off the screen like it does for the Iron Man movies.
Yeah, I mean, it could be because of like I don't want to like rag on the characters, but they have very like they're so extreme when they're apart and then when they're together. Mm-hmm. So it's
They're
kind
very
of
different motivations. It's very
yeah.
strange.
So it's kind of weird. Like we'll see them separately, and they can be very eccentric or very, very ecstatic, just depending on what situation is going on. But then they come together, and all of a sudden they're so much more toned down. And
It's a good point. Yeah.
It's just weird to see them both all of a sudden be like that with each other. I don't know. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. I like that. Kind of reminds me of the Amazing Spider-Man series with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. They'd be like one way when they were separate, and then when they were together, they were this unique, different thing that was interesting when watching it, but it was different. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's actually where I ended Act 2, and the reason for that I'll explain is that was the end of his spiral downwards. After he explains to Jane about the whole Bifrost and everything like that, there's a quick thing where what's the very next thing that happens after that? I don't know. Thor's team comes back to come and rescue him and all that, but we get to what I was talking about earlier, which is the next breakfast scene.
Yeah.
Right after that night time with Jane, he's instantly a different character. He's now very humble. He's now very for everyone else, and he's now just a man on Earth. So that's where it ended Act 2, and I said Act 3 starts now because his motivation comes like really soon here. His motivation to continue on to the end of the movie is right here at this moment.
I think I pretty much had it around the same time. My Act 3 might have started just before, or the first scene of Act 3 for me was when Sif and the Warriors 3 were banded together and then deciding like we have to go with Thor.
Okay, good. Yeah, so pretty much the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well then let's move into an Act 3. I got to see, or actually no, Act 3 I named it, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but I named it I Can Go the Distance.
I like it.
Because this movie to me parallels with the Hercules film a lot, which makes a lot of sense because I mean the Norse mythology and the Greek mythology can parallel a lot anyways, so it makes a lot of sense there. So.
I like it. That and I mean they physically travel like a huge amount of distance to go from Asgard to Earth.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I was just thinking more for Hercules' song, but still.
Yeah, no, but there's a double entendre.
There you go. I didn't mean to, but it works. What did you name yours?
Mine is Stay Frosty. and so that like for reasons that are related to it's a little bit of everything that in this act we see a little bit more. So yeah, Thor, because he has this new kind of not like a whole new lease on life, but he does view life a little bit differently. But he still seems a little bit more as if like it's not that he's letting his guard down. I think he's still he gets to the point where he's all of a sudden just like aware, and or he's just a little bit more self-aware of like who he really is.
Right.
And the what is it, the Civ and the Warriors 3, they're trying to actually really like get themselves prepared for getting to Earth and rescuing Thor and like whatever is to come after that. So just the idea of like, well, when I searched up just to be sure I knew of the phrase "stay frosty," but it's kind of like stay on your toes,
stay alert,
stay perky, stay alert. Exactly right. But then I also liked it. The double entendre aspect is because we have the moment where Loki encounters Heimdall and then freezes him.
Oh yeah, yep.
So that's part of my motivation for
and the Bifrost.
The Bifrost, exactly.
And the Frost Giants.
Yeah,
it works.
A lot of frosty stuff.
A lot of frost.
Why have you done this?
To prove to Father that I'm a worthy son. When he wakes, I will have saved his life. I will have destroyed that race of monsters, and I will be true heir to the throne.
You can't kill an entire race.
Why not? And what is this newfound love for the Frost Giants? You could have killed them all with your bare hands.
I've changed.
So have I. Now fight me!
Loki, this is madness.
Is it madness? Is it? Is it? I don't know what happened on Earth to make you so soft. Don't tell me. Is it that woman? Oh, it was. Well, maybe, when we're done here, I'll pay her a visit myself.
Again, I like half of that, but that last line is weird. It doesn't seem like Loki. Like, I understand that he's trying to enrage Thor, and it works.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
Like,
it's just that last line.
It doesn't seem nuanced enough. It just seems like, I don't know. I feel like they evolve with Loki's writing later on, but there's so much more that they could have said.
Yeah, it's like the last line is almost like, oh, he's the bad guy. This is what the bad guy says, kind of thing.
You know, and I'll give this movie credit though, definitely, where the last 3 Marvel movies we've gone through have all suffered from the villain being at the very end of the film, and like really just getting to this villain that's only actually the villain at the end of the film. This movie has had the clear villain the whole time, or I should say the clear antagonist, because again, he's not necessarily the villain; he's more just an antagonist. But they've got him around since the beginning of the movie, so. That's been nice, but you're right. With a line like that, it's almost like, okay, now he just donned the suit to be able to fight the guy at the end of the film. Like it's a little bit too stale for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel the same way.
Yeah. But they make up for it near the end of it, anyways. But still, regardless, Loki does a lot of weird things in this. He decides to go talk to the Frost Giants. He makes some kind of truce with them. He brings them into Asgard. He freezes Heimdall.
Yeah.
He sends the Destroyer down to destroy Thor because their mother said that Thor will try to find a way back because Odin's always got a plan. And then Loki's like, oh no, Odin's always got a plan. Like,
yeah.
So it's a lot of like really rushed stuff that's kind of interesting. It's like, this is weird, but okay. I guess they had to move on the plot anyway, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you said, Thor's team, they all decide, they band together as one, and they say, let's all go down and go find Thor. I love that moment when they see Heimdall. And he's like, he's like, you would defy your king or whatever. And they're like, yes. And he's like, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. He just walks away, and his sword is in the Bifrost machine, and they just go. That's smart. Well done.
Yeah. What does he say after that? I guess
he's like good, but he's like, I can't defy my king. He's like, but I don't have to, or I will not be a part of this or whatever. And then he just like walks away.
Well, he's something like, I cannot be the one to send you or something.
Yeah. And they go, well, that's great. Who will or whatever. And then it's like already
it's already there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did really well with those. He had such few lines, but he did so well.
I know. Every one of them pops off the screen though.
Yeah, they're great.
So good.
So when they actually arrive on Earth, so the Civ and the Warriors 3, I just thought it was kind of funny that we're seeing them in broad daylight and
Yeah.
in their armor stuff. Like the armor, it looks good, but because we're seeing them in broad daylight, it looks like they're just LARPing.
Doesn't it? Yeah, doesn't it look like Star Trek? Like they come down on the beam, like beam me up.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it's
actually,
very
right,
Star Trek.
totally.
And actually, as a parallel to that, I was wondering if you would have got this, but is the actress who plays Sif from Galaxy Quest? Is she the same chick who was like that alien in Galaxy Quest?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I thought it was. Because there's a moment where they go to the sliding glass, or they go to like the door. Sorry, they go to the window of the cafe and they're all like knocking on the window or whatever, like, hey! And they're like, hey! And it's like this really like kind of funny, dumb moment, but it reminded me so much of the sliding glass door in Galaxy Quest when they go to the back of Tim Allen's house and they're like, ah! And they're like trying to come in. Like,
I don't think it is.
it just
'cause
looked like her, and in that moment it looked like her. And maybe it's because they were LARPing, like you said, but it looks so funny. And I was like, is this supposed to be some kind of parallel to Galaxy Quest or something? Like,
Maybe it was. It must have been inspired by that.
I don't know.
I want
I
to
don't
look
know.
this up.
It's a bit of a stretch, but it's where my mind went when I was watching that.
I'm gonna quickly look it up. She looks a little bit different to me, but let's see. Galaxy...
She probably is.
No, it's not her.
Ah, darn it. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the person from Galaxy Quest is most likely a comedic actor and actress anyway, so it wouldn't really make sense. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's where my mind went when I saw that, so I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things I didn't really like about the fact that this scene was happening was wait, what's it called? Not the Guardian, the
Destroyer, I think. Yeah.
The Destroyer. So to me, this seemed like the most climactic fight of the whole movie. At least like in terms of like the path of the plot, that it's moving towards something and some sort of climax.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of felt like this was supposed to be it, but I guess I didn't like it because it wasn't like good guys versus bad guys, and it wasn't really good guys versus good guys either.
No.
It's good guys versus a robot manipulated by or not even manipulated, but like controlled by a bad guy, but this robot is supposed to be on the good guy side, and it's like, well, like, I don't know, it just seems like who cares what like about this fight?
I agree. Which I think is why they try to make a strong point of Thor saving the townspeople. I love that line, but it's also really funny where he's like, I'm just a man now. Like,
yeah.
For some reason I just laughed so hard when I heard that. He's like, friends, I'm just a man. It just sounds hilarious. But anyways, yeah, that's why I think it's a bigger deal. Like saving the townspeople and just not fighting the thing. So I see this as more a test of strength and character than it is actually being a boss battle or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, once he actually gets his powers, he kind of takes the thing out in like 3 hits, which again is very anticlimactic, but that's why you're right, it is weird. It definitely feels clunky too, but it is more just a test of strength, which is very to Norse mythology anyways, but that's kind of stretching it. It is pretty bad. Although I'll say, I do really like the sacrifice he makes. The very Harry Potter-esque, the very, as a lot of these hero sacrifice kind of storylines go, he's the one who makes that choice, I will die for others, and goes in and then gets smacked in the face by the thing. I don't like that the thing like takes its fire shield down and like turns its back and then smacks him in the face. I think it's weird. I think it would have been better if they showed Loki make the command to make it fire at him.
Yeah.
Or
because they were already showing Loki was sort of the one that was puppeteering it almost
Yes.
directly, right?
It actually almost would have been better if, like, maybe Loki showed remorse in that moment, didn't want it to kill him, and it went ahead anyways and killed him. And then we showed Loki again, where he went, oh, and, like, there was a hesitation, almost, you know?
Yeah.
Where, like, he didn't mean to.
Yeah.
I think that would have been better.
I think it's kind of it's a difficult scene to try to portray correctly, I guess, because of what has already been in play beforehand. So, yeah, like, obviously the Destroyer shouldn't have any emotions, really. It's just a creature that has been created for the purpose of guarding or defending or destroying intruders.
Destroy everything.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. He tells it to destroy everything. So
it's a weird command. For someone who's very methodical and thinks things through, that's a really weird command.
Yeah, so I guess that maybe it's kind of like a weird loosening of what's happening with Loki's character, and I guess his robot is supposed to show that, or the Destroyer is supposed to show that, but
I guess so.
I find it's a weird, it's just so detached that it's kind of hard to really feel like this is what should be happening.
Yeah, I'd agree. But I like the sacrifice, and then when the hammer comes, it's a big CGI fest, which I actually found the CGI kind of weird in this moment. There was a few scenes like when Thor flies.
Yeah,
it felt a little off there, which is funny. I remember seeing this movie in theaters thinking it was like really good looking, but watching this back on with 2020 eyes, it just seems a little off. It seems like they didn't finish some of those shots correctly or something. I don't know why, but it just felt weird.
The trick is don't watch it in high definition.
Oh,
watch it in low resolution, and it all looks the same.
Ah,
it blends better.
Also, really weird flex when he decides to destroy the thing by creating a gigantic tornado in the town he's trying to save. It was very weird. He's like, let's just spin everything around. All these cars are going to go flying up in the air and everything. I was like, what about all the people that were there on the ground still? Like, it was a weird way to kill the thing. Especially since the way he killed it was by making its fire go back internally onto itself. I was like, why not just walk up to it and put your hammer up to it? You know, I know it's not as cinematic, but still, it was a weird thing. But I understand it was for the show, but whatever. It was strange. That being said, that's not really the important stuff. All that happens, and then they decide to go back on the Bifrost. We get a cool Heimdall moment where he breaks free from the ice and kills two guys with a sword. That was awesome. That was
because he was staying frosty.
I love how he like did it himself. He just broke out of the ice himself. Like, he didn't need anybody's help.
I know.
He just yelled enough until the ice broke.
Yeah, what I like about the scene is just keeping with the idea that he sees all. It's not like he could, like, if you were a person that is frozen in a position but still alive, you shouldn't be able to tell that these things are walking up behind you.
Right.
But he still knows because he can see, and he's completely alive, like in this ice, sculpture. I mean, he's just frozen solid. But the moment he breaks out, he is already slicing down these two frost giants that are right behind him. So it's a very quick moment, and I like. It kind of just shows Heimdall's ability, like that one, like he's not just a watcher, but he is also a fighter. He's a very proficient fighter.
Yes. Yeah. And that sword's not just for using the Bifrost; it's a real sword.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
I got a little bit confused here after he brings back Thor, and Thor does his whole "let's fly to Loki" thing.
Yeah.
I didn't understand Loki's plan. He decides to kill the Jotunheim soldiers that are there, or the king who's trying to kill Odin.
Yeah.
Loki decides to kill him.
Well, I think that was his plan the whole time.
I guess so, right? And Loki does kind of explain that. He says, like, he wanted to then show father that he's worthy of being king because he can destroy the race that his father couldn't.
Yeah. And
it's a weird way to go around it. Why did he let the guy go all the way up to his father? I guess it was so his father could see him, but it was...
like he
it's very
wanted
theatrical
there to be...
and very strange.
Yeah. Well, I think he is a pretty... not that he himself is a theatrical character, but I think Loki, like, he's all about... he is about theatrics, like, as the god of mischief.
And his power, where he duplicates himself, shows that he is about the theatrics of it all.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and to him, like, a show of face is very important.
But which makes sense. But it's the line where he says, "Now I'm off to go kill, or I'm off to go destroy Jotunheim." When he kicks Thor out of the building, or shoots him out of the building, he explains to Thor that he had to do this because he wanted to show father that he wanted to be worthy of being king. Yeah. And then he shoots Thor. Thor goes flying out of the building, and then he says, "I have to go destroy Jotunheim."
Yeah.
And, like, my fiance and I looked at each other at the moment and we're like, why? Like, she's like, why does he have to destroy Jotunheim? I was like, I don't know. I don't actually know why he has to destroy Jotunheim at this moment. He killed the king. His father saw him kill the king, and now he has to get rid of the evidence. And the only explanation I could think of was, well, I guess there's the fact, like, he just wants to totally wipe out the race. But I was thinking maybe he doesn't want any association with him and Jotunheim. Like, he sees it as such a curse that he wants to totally destroy their race entirely. Because it's a bit personal for him, I guess. That was the only explanation I could really get to on why he actually had to destroy it, other than he's just the villain of the story.
Huh, interesting. I kind of wonder if it's maybe this is a part of, let's see. Oh no, this wouldn't make sense. I was gonna say that maybe he, like how he said that he wanted to do what Odin couldn't do, like that Odin couldn't destroy the whole race. I was gonna say that maybe part of it was because he wanted to do that. Some of the motivation was that Thor also wanted to destroy that race, but I think Thor's desire to do that was only because Loki convinced him right? Like
Right,
Thor
yes.
didn't have his own desire to do that, right?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, I guess that is kind of weird.
Yeah. So then we get to the final battle, I guess, with Thor and
guess.
Loki, which is more just kind of a yelling match. We already went through it with our scene here, but
Yeah.
it's good. I like how they get to the heart of the matter. You know, Loki hasn't evolved yet, and Thor has. He's really upset that Thor has become this new person because Loki can't manipulate him the way he used to because he doesn't understand Thor yet. So I think it's interesting. It's fun there, and we get to the actual good moments which is after Thor breaks the Bifrost. When Thor destroys the Bifrost, this is a moment where Loki really misjudged Thor. He didn't out of everything he could have expected Thor to do, that was not it. And as soon as Thor did, it's a moment where Thor is smarter than Loki in a weird way. He just was wiser than Loki in that moment. Now later on in the MCU, we'll see that Loki is able to get back at Thor pretty easily, But in that moment, he definitely did something Loki was not expecting. And destroying the Bifrost was taking away... It was a selfless act, right? Like, he takes what he wants, which is the woman. That's what Loki says. He wants the woman, and he now banishes himself from being able to see the woman again.
Yeah.
So Loki's just distraught by that. He didn't see it coming. And after that, that's when he feels so defeated that he just wants to fall to his death. But his brother and his father hold him up. And it's so awesome how it parallels back to the beginning of the movie where their father is there, wakes from his sleep to just grab the two young boys and to just be like, you know, it's almost like it's another lesson, you know? It's sad that Loki falls, or decides to then just throw himself away.
Yeah.
Although it seems clear that he's got more intentions. He's not just falling to his death. He almost just seems like he's going wherever he wants to go at that moment. But still, it's I love the parallel, or I love the allegory, I guess, of just like the father holding up the sons and like trying to teach them one last lesson, I guess. You know, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it would have been nice if we had a couple moments throughout the movie where we would see Loki kind of being coerced by some other party or some other being.
Yes.
And it might make a little bit more sense for why he... Like, it's weird for him to just all of a sudden decide to let go.
Yes.
Because it's like it's probably supposed to show that like he realized that he didn't do a good job or he didn't do what he should have done in his father's eyes, but it didn't. It seemed odd for him to decide that like seemingly death would be the only option at this point. And I guess if we like if what we know about Loki is true, that he thinks a whole bunch of things ahead and also does like to show theatrics, that it would make more sense to know that there was already something in place a little bit beforehand, like at least kind of brewing in Loki's mind before taking this action. So it was kind of weird, but maybe we just have to pass it off as one of those Loki's just like he has it all in his head, but we just don't know what it is until later.
Exactly. And I think I don't know what else you're supposed to do in that moment, but you're right. I think a third party there, maybe forcing the strings behind Loki, would have been better. Something that maybe he's aware of but none of the other characters are aware of, that makes him, you know, smaller or weaker or pained to make the actions that he makes. That would have humanized him a bit more. It would have been nice if in that moment when he sacrifices himself, we understood something that the other characters don't, where it's possible Loki would have died anyways if he came back to Asgard, that maybe there was some kind of, let's say, a Thanos-like figure that was going to kill him because he didn't succeed in what he was trying to do. So if he sacrificed himself, it would have made a bit more sense because he would have felt so defeated that he's like, no matter what I do, I'm damned. So he would have died. That would have been better. But unfortunately, they went a different direction. And I guess they probably did it because they also are trying to build up a villain for the Avengers movie, which inevitably is to come. Yeah. So, one more scene we get. Well, there's two more scenes. There's Odin and Thor talk about kingship and what it takes to be a king, and that's when Thor goes through his full redemption arc and says to the point where he is not ready to be a king yet, and he understands that he is the wisest king now of all, which is Odin. And I love that. I think it's really smart and cool, and we actually don't really, in the MCU, as far as I'm aware, we don't really get to see Thor be much of a king. He's usually still secondary to Odin until we get to sort of Ragnarok, and even at that point he's still not necessarily king. He's just leadership, but not full-on king.
Yeah, and in terms of a character arc, I like that is what he's supposed to progress to the point where it's about him like being a humble person and understanding what his place is on Asgard, as opposed to like say if his character arc were just him to become like a better fighter, or like or more of a compassionate fighter or something.
Yes.
You know, like just showing that like in the beginning he's all confident in his like brute strength and stuff like that. It seems like that's kind of the path where he would take, but I think it's much better knowing that the growth for him is more of his role.
Yeah.
Like
And then the last scene is Thor talking to Heimdall and then asking if Heimdall can see Jane. And I don't know, it could be cute, but I feel like the scene's almost just a little bit... It's very like... I don't know, I wish I had a better word for this. It just seems like we should have a better chemistry or a better romantic moment for the two of them before we got to this kind of scene. There should have been maybe like his drawing of his turkey hand on like a wall that she's like staring at as she's doing something. It almost seems like she's just so involved in her research that Thor just happens to be there in the research instead of like the other way around where like the research is driven because of Thor. I don't know. It's like Thor just is a part of the fact that she likes to do this science, but she was already interested in this science before Thor, so she's just doing what she already was doing at the beginning of the movie.
right.
So
Okay,
when he's like Heimdall, like, can you see her? And he's like, yeah, she's looking for you. But it's like, yeah, that's what she was doing before she even knew about Thor. Like she's just doing exactly what she was doing. You know, there's nothing really all that different. So I understand that like she is researching into the Bifrost and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know, it's just not as interesting as it could have been. There is an alternate ending actually I saw on Disney Plus, and I watched it. It's a little bit different, and all it is it's her and Darcy, and they're making a little beam, and this beam goes back to Thor and Heimdall on the Bifrost, and they look at the beam, and Thor smiles and then walks away. So that's a little bit better, I think. It kind of solves it more because it makes it seem like her science is now purely to communicate with Thor.
Oh, deleted scenes. I didn't notice this. I'll have to watch this after.
Yeah, it's not amazing. It's definitely, it doesn't fix everything, but it's just it's a little bit better. I think it kind of humanizes her a little bit more than the ending we did get.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess what you're saying is that like it's almost like Jane's ambitions didn't really change.
No.
And so emotionally, whatever they're trying to portray to the audience in terms of like how she feels about Thor hasn't really blossomed enough, because what she's doing is the same as what she used to do.
Yes.
And okay, yeah,
it's kind of like what you said, how when they're together they're kind of different people than they are when they're apart.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the movie he's like, what's she doing? And he's like, exactly what she does do. Like,
yeah, when she's not with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she does what she always does, you know.
Try to take over the world.
That's what I was gonna say. But still, I mean, it's not bad. It's just I wish it could have been a little bit better, I guess, you know. And that alternate scene is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that ending?
I guess it was kind of... Maybe I thought it was kind of weird that that's what they ended the scene with. That it was just about the two of them, and it wasn't about something else. Like, it wasn't about... Like, it started off being...
It's not necessarily about Asgard. It's not necessarily about even Earth, if that matters. Just the two of them.
Yeah. Because it's all... Yeah, we don't really... I guess we don't really get much closure in terms of... So, okay, yeah. So back to this part where Civ says, he mourns for his brother, and he misses her. So it's really just like we're ending this movie where Thor is lost again.
True, that's a good point.
It's weird. They open up to this new lost concept, even though he's completed one arc, and now all of a sudden we're starting this new arc.
That's a good point.
At the end of this movie.
He ends on a sad note.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I feel like it would have felt better for me to have some sort of like better closure, or rather than like having closure. Like, if they had not even mentioned Loki, no, I mean, it still makes sense to mention it, because like you can still end a tale where somebody is, it's like they're thinking about them, but it would make more sense for them to say, well, now he's doing what he can to search for them, right? Because now it's almost like, so he mourns for his brother, but okay, what? So he just accepted that he's dead? Like, is that right? What Thor's thinking? But we don't get a sense of that from Thor. And in terms of like he misses her, sure, Heimdall says like she's searching for you, I guess that's good enough for him. Like, he doesn't have to do what he needs to do to, like, on his end to search for her. I don't know. It's weird that they add these extra tidbits, and now we're just left to think, like, does he even care? I guess maybe it's just me. Maybe that's just how I took it.
No, I agree. I think that makes sense. It's weird thinking about it now. It almost seems a little more obvious now, looking back on it. In the middle of watching the movie, I didn't think about it totally like that, but looking on it now, I agree with you.
Thanks.
We've got one last scene, and it's the after credit scene, which is our first mention, I believe, of an Infinity Stone.
Yes.
Now, this movie did have the Infinity Gauntlet in the background in one of the scenes, but it was kind of like a fake gauntlet because it had all the gems already in it anyways, and was, as far as I know, it was just there for the fans who knew what the Infinity Gauntlet was. But it's not actually the Infinity Gauntlet because all the gems are in it, so that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, don't they reveal later on that glove that was in there was a fake? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, in Ragnarok, I think they mentioned that. But
yeah, like I think they mentioned like a bunch of items that are in there are actually just fakes,
which would make sense because a lot of them are supposed to be from the MCU. So, so this is our actual true look at the first thing. It's the Mind Stone, I believe, the blue one. So the Mind Stone, because it's used to convert people's like thoughts or mind or whatever, right? So it takes over their thoughts, and but right now it's in the form of the Tesseract, which is just the blue cube, and we'll see this a lot in our next movie that we watch. But this is the blue cube of power that holds the Mind Stone inside of it.
Wait a second.
Yes.
Is this based on the Infinity Stones initially colored in rainbow colors? No, the Mind Stone is yellow because that's the one that goes into Vision.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Literally,
I must have the wrong one.
So
I was thinking Mind Stone because it takes over, like Loki uses it in Avengers to take over people's minds.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of weird. So he does do that.
Yeah.
And so he does that with with Eric, and he does it with Clint.
With Clint, yeah.
And so anyway, the blue one is the Space Stone.
Oh, okay.
Apparently.
Interesting.
So that's still weird that it has that power.
Oh, yeah, they use it for teleportation, though, don't they?
Oh.
The Tesseract? When they build the Tesseract, they're building a portal, are they not?
Why don't I remember this?
Because the portal brings in all the enemies in Avengers. We'll see this in the Avengers movie, so we'll go into it in more detail then. So it's okay that we're questioning all this at the moment, but it's our first gem. It's the Space Stone, but it's really at this moment it's just the Tesseract, because I guess at this moment in the MCU they still weren't sure if they were going the Infinity Wars route, so they were still just going Tesseract for now.
Yeah, it is the blue Space Stone. Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. Space Stone powers. Tell me, Google. Gives the user power over space. Anyone holding the Space Stone can create a portal from one part of the universe to another.
Okay.
So then why? Okay, well that.
So
that
yeah,
might just
it's
take
used for
some time to
teleportation,
figure out
which we see a lot of with the Space Stone. We'll see that all the way through the MCU. So this teleportation thing is pretty interesting. I think we do see this quite a bit actually in the Avengers movie. As far as I can recall, I remember some kind of wormholes stuff happening. So. So, anyways, the scene's not very big. It's just Nick Fury telling Eric about it and explaining the cube.
What? Sorry, I thought maybe I should mention this anyway, just for clarification. Somebody answered saying Loki didn't use the Tesseract to control people. He used his scepter, which contained the Mind Stone.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm getting that mixed up. So we've had two stones shown in this movie then, because the Tesseract holds the Space Stone. So his scepter holds the Mind Stone. And they later use the Mind Stone to then create Vision. Well, actually, Ultron, which then creates Vision.
Ultron, yeah. So I guess that's the clarification there.
Okay, well, we'll see that as we go through the Avengers movies. But yeah, that's good to keep. I would have missed that for sure. So the Space Stone is within the Tesseract, and then the Mind Stone is within Loki's scepter. So we've seen both of those, technically.
Yeah.
Or, no, he didn't have a scepter in this movie.
Not in this one.
No, so we've clarification. We've only seen one stone, and that is the Space Stone, and we saw it only in the credits.
In the credits, post-credits.
Tesseract wasn't anywhere else. No, I did get confused. My fiance and I thought the Frost Giants box thing, we thought that was the Tesseract for a long time there. It wasn't until the very end when we realized that wasn't the Tesseract. So
I was actually thinking that from the beginning of the movie too. Yeah.
But anyways, the scene's not very big. It's just Nick Fury talking to Eric. It's not a very big deal. It's kind of small, and it mostly just kind of plays out again in Avengers later on anyways. Because at this moment, it looks like Eric is already converted by Loki to be mind controlled.
Yeah.
But we see that happen in Avengers. So this scene is almost kind of an alternate scene, or it's like in a switch timeline anyway. So it's kind of just to tell us that there is a stone out there, or a tesseract at least. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So that is that, and that is Thor.
All right. Thor is Thor.
Thor is Thor. Anth0z, let's go into our post-film questions here.
Okay.
Anth0z, what is your worst character of this film?
Who's the worst character?
Who's the worst?
Jeez, I'm not sure. Who's the worst character? Jane? Maybe? I don't know. I might just go with Jane.
I would agree with you on that. Unfortunately, yeah. I was my secondary would be the three friend guys.
I was trying to picture one of those characters.
They don't get enough lines. Jane's supposed to be a lead, and unfortunately, her character just doesn't really come off the screen as well. She's not awful, but she's just not good.
Yeah, and I guess like with her having those whole extremes, like in her character, it just kind of it's a little off-putting. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll agree with you on that. Anth0z, who's your best character?
Heimdall. Have to go with Heimdall.
I would agree with you that he's like my favorite to see on screen. I'm so happy about that. But I'll go with Odin just because I really do like Odin's character in this movie. He pretty much doesn't change throughout all the films. He just is Anthony Hopkins. He's very wise. He's very awesome.
This is true.
Good acting, good lines. The only thing about Odin that I don't really like is the Odin sleep part of the movie. It just feels like a plot device they had to use to make Odin just kind of be quiet for a bit. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I really do like Odin in this film, and I think that he is the best character overall.
Okay, that's fair.
I wish it was Loki and I wish it was Thor, but unfortunately, it's Odin.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So, which question do you want to ask?
So I do kind of have an answer for this one.
Oh, perfect. Go ahead.
Question. So the how does this movie rate as a piece of a bigger picture, like how comics are pieces of art. So, I wanted to mention this before, but I saved it for until now. But just the fact that we see so much happening on Earth, and a lot less of things taking place on Asgard, I feel like that's something that, if this were a comic, we would have been able to get more of what's happening on Asgard, and that would have been straight from the beginning too. Like in a comic, I don't see that they would have. Maybe they did, but there's so much more opportunity in a that I find in if you have like a long series, like a comic series, you have time to establish a lot of things on Asgard, and then during other times you have just as much time if you need to establish stuff on Earth.
Right.
But I think building the rapport of what takes place on Asgard, I think to me it would make more sense. I would just see that happening more in a comic, but because this is just like a standalone movie that had to balance like both of those aspects in one sitting, I found that it didn't really place well to me. It didn't really fit well as a comic. Right. If that makes sense. Yeah.
That does. Yeah. Yeah, I got it. And I would agree with you on that too. I mean, it is a little bit flip-floppy with the Earth and Asgard stuff, and you don't really know where you want to care. I don't know if there are people out there that want more of the Earth stuff, but I know I definitely want more Asgard stuff, and I think a lot of people would just rather see more Asgard. And that's the unfortunate thing that happens when you make a film instead of something larger than that, or a different media. So in a film, they only have the 2 hours to show what they can show, and then makes it so it's just split half and half between Earth and Asgard, which is a little bit annoying, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think later films end up fixing it anyway, so it's fine.
All right.
Okay, so final thoughts then. Good movie. It's not bad. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad.
Overall, it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it's I'd say second favorite. Probably Iron Man 1, and then this is my second favorite so far that we've watched.
Oh, of the ones that we've watched.
Yeah.
Okay, so between Iron Man 1, 2, Thor, and the Hulk. Yeah, this is probably my second favorite. Yeah,
I go Iron Man 1, then Thor, then Iron Man 2, and then the Hulk.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Yeah.
I think most people would be too, but
Probably. Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, everybody out there, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Be sure to catch up on next time on our Marvel Marathon episode, which is gonna be Captain America.
I almost sang the Superman theme.
That's because I almost did the Superman theme.
I was thinking, like, wait, is that actually the Captain America theme? And I just didn't get it?
No, it's the Captain America theme. I have it as my ringtone, but I haven't had my phone for the last 4 days, so I actually can't remember it. But what is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to picture it.
It's
It's the ringtone for your mom, right? Yeah. There we go.
That's it. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like Band of Brothers. Like I was watching The Pacific with my fiance not that long ago, and I was like, this sounds like it's a very similar theme to Band of Brothers. I was like, this also sounds like Captain America. I was like, I wonder if the Captain America people were like watching Band of Brothers and like, we have to make it sort of like this.
Well, yeah, I think it's the Band of Brothers that takes place during during a
World War II,
isn't it?
Yeah, World War II.
Yeah.
And same with Captain America. There's a lot of similarities actually between Band of Brothers, the HBO show, and the Captain America movie.
Okay.
So, funny enough, the Captain America movie, we'll get into it obviously for the next podcast, but I'm excited to talk about it. This is a movie that I do watch with my fiance every now and then. One of the odd Marvel movies that I actually do just put on every now and then to watch. So, I'm excited because I'm much more knowledgeable about that one than some of the other ones. So,
Nice.
yes.
Looking forward to it.
Excited. All right. Thank you for listening, guys, and have yourselves a good old-fashioned time.
Thanks
Bye.
for listening.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.